and welcome to Taiwan Today. I am Natalie Tso. Two Chinese jets crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait on March 31st. It's the first time in 20 years that China made such a provocative move, and they're warning that they may do so again. Now today, to talk with me about this issue is military affairs expert, Danjiang University professor Alexander Huang. It's great to have you on the show.
It's my pleasure.
So this is a big move that China just made. Tell us what you think. Why did China make this move?
I think it can be separate into two interpretations. One is that China wants to express their anger or anxious feeling about the current improvement of US-Taiwan relationship. They send a message to the United States and says, since you said you can do freedom of navigation in the South China Sea that China claims, so we definitely can fly our military assets in the public domain of the Taiwan Strait. So that's one message. Another message, of course, is obvious to warn Taiwan that not to either go for independence or get too closer to the United States. So I think it's a mixed message, but the move, the maneuver itself, it should be viewed very, very seriously.
Right.
We because last time they, almost all the time, if you go to our Air Combat Control Center, you will see that sometimes that because of the weather condition or a tactical maneuver, that they will, move a little bit beyond the medium line to our side, but they will quickly move away. But the last time they go directly, if we look at the path, with a very threatening tactical maneuver, was 20 years ago when former President Lee Teng-hui pronounced the so-called special state-to-state relationship. And a few weeks back, in end of March, that they did it again and stay on this side of median line for around 10 minutes, and with some other backup sorties coming over as well.
Right, that's a big
so we need to look at this issue very, very seriously. I think it's not only one National Security Council meeting to deal with those. So we need to communicate with our friends, and also we need to sit down with our senior military officers to have a very, very serious seminar to talk about possible futures.
So do you think that President Tsai took the right strategy? I mean, if it happens again, do you think they should expel the planes, or they should deal with it in another way?
Well, I think it's better that political leaders only deliver political messages and try to refrain from giving detailed instructions for military operations or actions, because we all know that China will test the line again at some point. As long as the United States announced a new arms sales item to Taiwan, or any politician says something that Beijing dislikes, then they would have the excuse to do it again. So they are coming. So for me, as a experienced observer and a policy advisor, I would say that we need to have a series of meetings at different levels to at least simulate the future possible scenarios. So everybody can get prepared, because if we only talk about it occasionally, then maybe in the next crisis we would not have any idea that to make a decision within 1 or 2 minutes.
So what if they were to, cause loss of life to Taiwan? What do you think would happen?
Well, that will be a tragedy, I think. because if the cross-strait tension involves in loss of lives, then it will definitely become a crisis, especially during the time when we have a huge political movement in Taiwan.
Election, right?
The election is coming up, so it could be used by either side to make their own preferred interpretation, and it may not work for China's interests. So something that we don't talk a lot is whether this action in late March was out of a direct central command to give a warning shot to the United States and Taiwan, or it was out of a kind of conflicting views that the uniformed service on the other side wanted to have a strong position, and the party leadership thought, if you guys are careful, be more careful, then we can, let you do it. But given them specific instruction not to cause trouble, not to have direct engagement, not to log on Taiwan's fighter jets. This is something we don't know. We need to find out later.
So you think it could be the PLA that really wants to come over, but not Xi Jinping who wants this?
No, it may not be the civilian leadership's initiative to do this. It might be more hawkish people that in uniform that insist that Taiwan is going too far, or the United States and Taiwan is getting too close. So they want to, send a message.
So what do you think Taiwan should do?
I think in addition to what I said in the command and control structure, I think we need to sit back and review on our future policy with the Chinese. If we really say what the United States wanted us to say, or to show, the stand with the United States and say whatever the United States say to China, then make China feel that we are taking one side, and we are on the side of anti-China sentiment. Then we will have more direct threat. So I think we need to talk to the United States. We even need to explain to the United States that we are only 70 nautical miles away from the Chinese continent. And so they have a direct and very quick threat to us on the daily basis. So we must be able to maintain certain levels of communication with the other side to mitigate threat, to deal with a possible crisis. It's not just, we are with you, but we sometimes we will not antagonize China on the regular basis for nothing. So I think first of all, we need to have a policy review that how to re-engage China. The other is to have an education to the more general public that the cross-strait tension is not only verbal, it could be physical, and any result of a direct conflict would not be in the interest of the entire population, definitely not in the interest of businessmen.
What about U.S.? You said that U.S.-Taiwan ties are stronger.
Yes.
And so if Beijing were to attack us or provoke us, how do you think the U.S. would help us? To what extent?
I can give you a diplomatic answer and say, we share the same value as of the United States. So according to the Taiwan Relations Act, that the United States would consider any coercive action against Taiwan is a grave concern of the United States. So the United States Congress, our friends in Washington, will do everything possible to help Taiwan. But on the other side, how the United States should react in real terms, let's be realistic. Even with a fully equipped, aircraft carrier strike group stationed in Yokosuka, Japan, they need, probably more than 2 days to get everything fully loaded, all the combat jets, back to the carrier and sail over to Taiwan. And don't forget that 20 some years ago, during the Taiwan missile crisis, the Chinese did not have the missile to target on moving objects at sea. And right now, China had various type of anti-ship ballistic missile that can really hit and sink American carriers. I'm not saying that China will do it, but it will definitely add concerns of the defense planners in Washington and war planners in Hawaii of how to deploy, how to use the carrier strike group. So it's not as simple as 25 years ago. Now the situation is more complicated, and China is more capable. They have more tools in the box that they can use. So I would say that sit down, find a way to re-engage is very important. My only message to my friends in Beijing after the J-11 crossover, I said, bros, we should not wait until a real crisis and when we kill someone, and then started a process of conversation. I said we should have a conversation now to prevent ourselves to fall into the black hole. And nobody would entertain.
Do you think that how likely do you think a war could happen between Taiwan and China?
So far, I don't think there will be a war. I think the war may occur under two conditions. One is that Taiwan is getting too farther away from the Chinese position. And making Beijing believe that the unification or a peaceful development or peaceful unification would become hopeless. Then they will think about the military option. The other is that when China itself get in domestic trouble, that the party cannot have full control.
Use this as a tool for unification.
Right. So Taiwan or a threat to Taiwan or using military force against Taiwan as a tool in their own political struggle or competition, then Taiwan becomes a victim as well. So, and that's why we need to understand China more. We need to sit down with them and talk to them and at least express our concern.
But they're not willing to talk right now.
Well,
maybe they're
according to what
talks.
I learned and remember from President Tsai Ing-wen, she always liked to quote a famous quote called, "If there is a will, there is a way." So I think, even for her next election, and also my message to all the possible candidates in the coming presidential race, that you need to show the general public that your way to resume conversation and dialogue with the other side, in order to make sure that we will continue to enjoy a peaceful environment.
So what would you do? What is your advice to the next president?
I would say that we will start it by, could be from a lower point or from a high point. From a high point, unfortunately, China set a very high bar, and which is that one country, 92 consensus, and one China principle, that if you do not spell out the words, then no phone will be answered. I think for the continuation of the current government, it would be more hard from the top-down approach. But bottom up, one is by crisis that you have to, or by some limited collaboration. I think to say nice things to each other is the beginning. To call China mainland China, the mainland, instead of China.
They like that?
It's a message.
So what it means?
Yeah, if you always say China and Taiwan, then for Beijing listeners, they will say, okay, it's one China, one Taiwan, or two Chinas. But if you started to, in all the official statement and printed documents saying that the mainland and Taiwan, it will be a beginning. You don't need to say that I agree with the one China principle as defined by Beijing, but at least we can say, oh, this is the mainland and Taiwan. I think they can feel that China also desperately need a peaceful environment, right?
They need us to offer some goodwill that they can take back to their people to say, look.
Right, and
we're
also
winning their
they
hearts.
cannot afford to have a very tense regional situation. I mean, there is a South China Sea issue already, and the Korean Peninsula is not, is somewhat unpredictable. So at least across the Taiwan Strait, we need to have some, stabilizer. I think the key one is to resume dialogue.
That would be good. This week we celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Taiwan Relations Act. How would you describe US-Taiwan relations now? You said, it's getting better and better.
Well, that's a tough question. It is not that I don't know the answer or how to answer, but your question remind me of decades of soul searching and reflection.
At least 40 years, right?
Yeah, because every time when the president or the foreign minister said that the current moment is the best moment in recent memory.
They like to say that, right? Makes them look good.
Right. But my personal experience is that every time the president or the minister said that we're gonna have some bad news happen.
Oh.
Yeah, or it's
Really?
not look as good as we expected.
They say that as a cover-up, or because they
No,
know
it's
something's
not.
gonna
It's
happen, or?
because they were told. There are visitors from the United States saying that our relations is the best for the time being. Of course, President Ma Ying-jeou took office after Chen Shui-bian's pretty bad relations with Washington. So it was right for Ma Ying-jeou said that now the US-Taiwan relations is the best. But of course now the DPP government is working with the Trump administration very closely, and they have more common language together. I hope that commonality is not anti-China, but human rights, democracy institute, and others.
Do you think that President Trump is using Taiwan as leverage, as a bargaining chip with China? Because, he started this trade war with China.
Yeah, the short answer is yes. Why not? Taiwan is not only a bargaining chip, it's a trump card. Because it's not because of how
Trump's
Taiwan
trump
is so... Yeah, Trump's trump card is Taiwan. Why? It's not only because that we think we are important. It's because that China said that Taiwan issue is the most sensitive ones.
They gave the answer away, right?
Yeah, they directly told President Trump even before he was inaugurated, because he picked up a phone call from President Tsai Ing-wen,
right.
and China reacts. So President Trump got that taste even before becoming the president, and he understands that Taiwan is the big bottom. If you really push hard, and the Chinese will jump really high. And that's why Taiwan is the trump card.
Is that good for us or bad for us?
I think it's good and bad, depending on how we work it out. And the key is mutual trust. If our officials or decision makers and the United States decision makers are sharing, the same view and as personal friends, as common policy ground, and trust each other, then we can tolerate some kind of flexibility. if we do not trust each other, then everybody protects its own national interest, then that will pen everybody to each corner of the room, and so they cannot shake hands.
Do you think we can trust the U.S. as an ally to be there for us if we're in trouble with China?
I think we can trust the United States, but personally, I don't trust that how fast and how much that they can do in time when I need it. I think the United States is for Taiwan. I think we got so many commonalities, shared values, and the United States like Taiwan a lot. At least Taiwan is a full-fledged democracy and shows a better path to all the Chinese people, according to Vice President Mike Pence. So Taiwan is valuable, but in terms of military conflict, we have to understand that there are limitations based on geography, availability, and combat experience, and also logistics. The United States does not, and more likely, that they do not want to use Taiwan as a bargaining chip. They wanted to see Taiwan as an independent. Well, I have to be careful.
Sovereign?
as a sovereign state, as a full-fledged democracy. So they wanted to have a normal relationship with Taiwan, and will not. And this is a kind of a sentiment now in Washington D.C. that they would not like to see that Taiwan be treated as a victim for the good and bad of U.S.-China relationship.
Definitely.
They want to separate this bilateral relationship based on its merit and interest.
Well, Professor Huang, thank you so much for all your insights. And we hope that you can advise our governments in these
At some point.
Tense times. Thank you
Right.
for coming on the show.
Thank
and
you.
I've been speaking with Professor Alexander Huang of Danjiang University. He's a military affairs expert. We've been talking about cross-strait relations that have become very tense after the flying of 2 Chinese jets over the median line of the Taiwan Strait. Thanks for tuning in. For Taiwan Today, I'm Natalie Tso.